Why am I doing this? Am I a hater? That's what some people are thinking, especially the fans of the fake news. Do I hate? Is my heart just filled with hate? Am I doing it for the money? I mean, money's not bad, honestly. But that's, you can't. I never would have gotten started doing this if I only did it for the cash. Because you have to care about what you're doing to be able to do it with any degree of success. One of my cousins, I asked him, I said, well, why don't you want to be a judge? And he said, well, going the lawyer route instead of the judge, because you know, if you want to be a judge, you have to actually give it, about what you're doing. He's doing it for the money. I don't do this for the money. I do this because American civilization will collapse, and I really do believe this. I'm not joking. There's no joke here. I'm being dead serious. American civilization is under a terrorist attack, and those terrorists live within our own borders. Those terrorists are the fake news. I used to be in the fake news. I used to work alongside the terrorist fake news, the communist terrorist fake news. Aiding, abetting, promoting terrorism within our borders, turning neighbor against neighbor, turning father against son, turning American against American. So this is an educational website, americasmansman.com, explaining what was once painfully obvious to everybody, but is not today, simply because so many Americans are so terribly miseducated by the fake news. It's my moral responsibility as an American citizen to help to save the collective consciousness of the American people from the subversive, incessant brainwashing by the fake news, which is trying to appropriate authentic American morality. You know how they always accuse everyone of cultural appropriation or misappropriation or whatnot. Well, as always, it's just the fake news doing what communists do best, which is accusing the other side. Remember, this is what Hillary Clinton learned from Saul Alinsky. Accusing the other side of doing what they do themselves. And they've gotten away with it for about a century now because the profit systems that they have in place prevented the collective American wisdom of John Q. citizens like America's Mansman from calling them out, because there's it's called the spiral of silence theory, is that if you can scare people enough, if you can scare the majority enough, eventually you can convince them that the painfully obvious is wrong, that what only psychopaths believe is actually correct, and that the majority, listening to our hearts and just observing what is painfully obvious common sense, as Thomas Paine put it, is somehow offensive, or that somehow you and I are the enemy, and the fake news terrorists and their friends in the terrorist world, their friends like Iran and Barack Obama, who gave the Iranians the money for their nuclear programs, or what did George Bush call it? I don't know if he mispronounced it, so the fake news had some fun with that. But the point is that now most of you, because you are following me, I know, or I'd say a good number of you are just kind of nodding your heads and saying, well, it's like, well, yeah, the fake news is wrong about that, and that's total BS. And thank God is that someone out there is actually saying what's true, what I'm actually thinking is what I'd say the majority of americasmansman.com subscribers are thinking. And by the way, if you're watching this video anywhere besides americasmansman.com, please just take a moment, pause the video, and we'll be here when you come back, don't worry. Pause the video and head on over, open a new tab, head on over to americasmansman.com. Please put your email address in the box at the top of americasmansman.com and hit the subscribe button. We're working on the ad problem. Do apologize for some of that. We're dealing with it. Just trust us. We're dealing with it. But it's not obvious to some Americans today because this kind of spiral of silence phenomenon, which comes when the fake news brainwashes a critical mass of enough Americans that suddenly saying things like, no, it's wrong to put your penis in another man's ass. You know, it's common sense. It's just not what it was made for, right? But the fake news has been so successful in brainwashing everyday Americans like you and me into thinking that, well, somehow we're the enemy if we speak out against this. And maybe I don't want my 3-year-old learning how to have sex by a kindergarten health teacher, or learning how not to have, learning how to engage in, well, let's call it what it really is. Two homosexual men cannot actually engage in sexual relations. It's mutual masturbation is really the proper term for that, or sodomy. It's not sex. They call it that, just like they call it marriage, but I mean, it's regardless of what certain Supreme Court justices have decided in the wisdom of their sacred fake news saturated chambers. It ain't sex. When two men get together, like it's a physical impossibility. Two men are incapable of having sex. Two women are not physically capable. You can't, you know, it doesn't work, you know, it just doesn't work. Not what it was designed for by our intelligent creator who endows us with all of our inalienable rights. And that ain't one of them, by the way. Not one of the rights. So anyway, why do I call this to our attention? Well, because now I know it takes a degree of humility to admit that you have been brainwashed, and I applaud you for admitting as much that you are just as susceptible as I am to the pernicious, pervasive, malicious, terroristic influence of the fake news media, which poisons the world, unfortunately. And so many people, so many foreigners actually believe that there are transsexuals with feathers on every street corner in America, and they come here and they're like, "Oh, gee, where are all the queers? I wanted to go sightseeing. I wanted to go queer watching." And you're like, "Well, it's just you're watching a Hollywood video. It's not. We're not actually. Real Americans are not actually like that. The majority of Americans are good people. They're good people across this great land, and if you're watching this video, I'm sure that you're well on your way to becoming one of them. If you're not, as good as humanity can be, anyway. Of course, Jesus Christ. You know, have to a disclaimer in there. Jesus Christ is untouchable in terms of the good. You know, he won. So just don't try to be as good as. I mean, I guess we all should try to be as good as him, but it's the paradox. It's one of the many biblical paradoxes or ironies that we're supposed to try as hard as we can to be like him, but we never will. Anyway, but that's not what this is about. This is about the painfully obvious, some less intriguing, less complicated things that are not paradoxes, like two penises do not belong in a sword fight. Maybe in medieval days, somehow they could swing that, but I threw that one in there for the homosexuals I'm trying to recruit here to, you know, join our team of heterosexual Christian good people America's man's men. There are just a lot of perverts out there. I mean, it's just the fake news has brainwashed America on behalf of communism to become a nation of perverts. Every single one of them is a member of a union. It's all a drama whose purpose is to extract profit from you by getting you all so worked up that you can't do anything else but tune in to the fake news so you can hear more lies tomorrow evening. And it's done some damage. And so I guess my purpose here is twofold: to carry the torch of what corporate America might call classic American organizational wisdom. If we as corporate America, when I say corporate, I don't mean like a business Wall Street businessman. No, I mean corporate. I mean all of us together. To use the term somewhat quasi-theologically. Not as Nancy Pelosi doesn't use it quasi. She's just like Satan. I mean, I guess Nancy Pelosi uses theology like Satan uses it pretty much. She's basically trying to run the Church of Satan. In fact, there's a Church of Satan in Salem, Nancy Pelosi. I'm sure they would love to have you preach there someday. In Salem, Massachusetts. One of the birthplaces of American Christianity in some respects, which is why Satan is trying so hard to take it out. Anyway, so I want to remind you all who you're surrounded by perverse people, brainwashed by the fake news, but it's getting better, and it is. In reality, it is the perverted, fake news, brainwashed mob, which is on the wrong side of history because you make people dumb enough for long enough, and eventually, they can't even think anymore. They don't know Jefferson or Washington, but they do know George Jefferson, and they do know SpongeBob SquarePants, which is slightly less useful when you're attempting to be productive and to find contentedness in life. So you folks are good people. You're good people, and I thank you so much for coming to americasmansman.com and to get renewed, to get refreshed. And to be reminded to focus on your mission of making America great again in whatever way that is for you, whatever your giftedness is, whatever your calling is, and it's a difficult thing to find sometimes what your calling is. Obviously mine is to lead America out of the darkness, to lead millennials and those beyond out of the darkness that's afflicted our nation, the darkness of the principality is what Christians would call it, the principality of fake news, communist brainwashing. And we're so glad you're here. I'm glad you're here, and I may not be the kind of man you'd want to have a beer with, because I would just watch you get drunk. I'd go to the bar and I'd be ha ha, and then you probably would never get drunk again because you'd figure out how stupid it is to get drunk. But I'm here to remind you. I'm here to refresh you with the goodness of America's God, which is Jesus Christ. There's only one way to heaven, and that is Jesus Christ. That is the God of America, God's exceptional nation. And so be proud to be an American. Don't have that biblical hubris. You're not God, but be proud to be an American because you live in the best generation in the world. And with great power comes great responsibility, right? Anyway, with great power comes great responsibility, and so all of you, America's man's men, have the responsibility to protect and nurture this wondrous, wise beyond wise gift that America is, and to protect it from those, especially within our borders, who would seek to take it down, like the fake news, like the Chi-Com Democrats, like the sycophantic Republicans, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to remind you, if you've been a bad dog watching the fake news because it titillates you, turn it off. Turn on americasmansman.com, and we're going to keep encouraging you to do the right thing, to keep your body, your mind, your soul in good shape, and to avoid the great communist brainwashing of that's afflicted an entire century. It's going to take some time to get out of the wilderness, but we're here to guide you on your way by the glory and by the grace of God. For americasmansman.com, I'm Peter Vidala. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.